Marc Jackson, NBC Philadelphia. They will be on the call tomorrow, 2:30 tip. You can hear the game live on 97.3 ESPN as the Sixers take on the Brooklyn Nets. My friend, Mark, what's going on, man? How you been?
Nothing much, fellas. How y'all doing today?
All is well. A lot of nervousness around the Delaware Valley for a team that's a 3 against a 6. And you're just saying that there should be. Big Joel said today he's not sure. He has no idea whether he's going to play tomorrow or not.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. You know, when I think Elton Brand said they had the statement optimistic, I think that opened everyone's eyes. We're like, hold on, what you mean optimistic? What's going on? What has changed? You know, what's going on? I think that opened the door for all the scrutiny and for everyone to question if Joel Embiid is healthy. And, you know, so then everybody started putting a piece together. Well, what do you mean optimistic? Then you asked Brett Brown in the after the game, and Brett Brown was kind of taken aback. Well, we'll put out something. It just seems like people weren't on the same page. And to me, this is my opinion only, and it just was very interesting. You start putting 2 and 2 together. Well, that's why they might have signed Greg Monroe. Maybe they've seen things coming, and you start questioning a lot of things that's going on.
That's an interesting take, Marc Jackson, here on the Bash, 97.3 ESPN. And, you know, obviously, Mark, with Joel, they have a shot to make it to the finals. Without him, what are your expectations of what this team can do if he's iffy?
You know, without Joel Embiid, this team is a good team, but I don't think they're going too far. Respectfully, with Joel Embiid, I think they have a chance to go to the East Conference Finals and maybe further. You know, it concerns me because Joel Embiid is so valuable on both ends of the floor for the 76ers offensively. 27 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists. I mean, this guy is spectacular. On the defensive end, with him, the 76ers lineup is so great defensively because you can funnel everyone to Joel. You can play a little bit more aggressive. You can do things. You take chances. Without him, you're scratching your head. You know, guys going to start getting in foul trouble. Teams going to start having their way, and he is not as disruptive. So, you know, it's very important. Joel Embiid playing is very vital and important to the success of this team.
No question. Mark, I don't know if you've ever had, you know, tendonitis or what he's dealing with here, but you're a big man. I mean, I've been next to you before. You're 6'10", he's 7'2". You know, I guess you got to start to wonder, you know, can he take the rigors of a long NBA season and be the impactful player? Like maybe he can play, you know, 50, 60 games, but is that something that concerns you long term? And when you're thinking championships, can Joel Embiid be the consistent player this season and long-term to lead them to where they ultimately want to get to at that size in today's game?
You know what? That's a good point. Can he? I will hope so. But I think you have to go on history. I mean, as of now, the answer's been no. Because, you know, we really thought this year was the year where he'd be healthy. He's coming in playoffs. And last year, the freak accident, Markelle Fultz, he breaks his eye socket. Now, you know, you can't play because of tendonitis. You know, I've had tendonitis. Tendonitis comes and goes and flares up. You calm it down with rest, but then it flares up again until you can get your legs strong enough and do some adjustments to help you stay healthy 100%. So can he deal with the rigors? I think we have to go with history, and as of now, that answer is no. And that's not just me. I'm just looking at games played every year since he got drafted.
Mark, let me get your take on Ben Simmons in these playoffs. I mean, last year in the playoffs against Boston, he did not play very well. His game has not evolved all that much from year 1 to year 2. He might be a better defender. He might have added a little bit more X, Y, or Z, but has he come along far enough to say, I think he will be more impactful in these playoffs than what we saw at the end when they got bounced out in last year's playoffs?
I think he has. I truly believe his finishing ability has gotten better. I do believe that. I thought last year he would a lot of flip shots around the rim and his touch wasn't there. I thought he's found a way to make some more post-up moves and some more finishing moves around the rim other than the dunk, obviously. And I think he has improved in that. How impactful can he be? You know, I'm still a believer that Ben is going to be good. Respectfully, he's good now, but I don't know what's his ceiling. Why? You look at Giannis. You say, Giannis is devastating. He's incredible. He's so impactful on both ends of the floor. How come Ben can't be the same way? But then you look at how many years Giannis has been in the NBA. Then you go back to Ben. This is only Ben's second year. And when I was watching last game versus the Bucks, people say, "Oh, Giannis is destroying Ben. He's too good for Ben." But yeah, how many years has Giannis been in the league? And every year he's progressed. Why can't Ben do that?
Mm-hmm.
Giannis wasn't the shooter coming to the league. He's still not a shooter. Why can't Ben develop into that? So we have to. And Ben is so mature. He's so mature that sometimes we forget this is only his second professional year. And I think once we go back and slow it down and we put it in perspective, it helps us understand he still has a long way to go and he has time to do that.
No, I agree with you in terms of, look, it's year 2. He's got a lot of growing. However, I will say, and look, I'm not one of these guys either, Mark, that's like, he's got to shoot or this team's in trouble. Like, I get it. That's not his game. Now, I tried to come up with a guy who had just essentially not shot at all and then developed a shot at some point. Like, it's a pretty drastic change to go from nothing. It's like 0 to 60 with him if he just starts popping jumpers at some point. But is there something that next year that he's going – if he comes back and he's the same player next year but just a year more with more, experience, is that going to be good enough? Or is he going to have to expand his offensive game from year 2 to year 3?
I think he needs to expand. I think that to better himself as a player, he needs to expand his game and take his game a little further away from the basket. Still be that dominant force getting to the rim, but also having a backup plan. Got LeBron's sitting under the rim when you're at the foul line with the ball. To me, that's just the ultimate disrespect, and that's telling me I'm a liability. I have to work on my game. I have to develop a mid-range jump shot. You don't need to develop no 3. Take it slowly. Develop a 10 to 12-foot jump shot, a foul line jump shot. Just start off with that, and then expand every year as it goes. And I really believe that after the Boston series, I thought he would make an adjustment with his jumper. But he didn't come. He started taking some this year later.
What do you make, Mark? What do you like? He came out in that game against the Lakers and shot a 3, and then maybe one other one. The rest, like, that just came randomly out of nowhere, and then we never saw it again.
Exactly. I'm so scratching my head on that. But I believe you have to the defense and your success determine how much you develop. Because a lot of guys, they say, "Oh, I'm crushing it. I'm killing the NBA. What do I need to improve?" I think Ben is in a situation where LeBron opened up his eyes even more. LeBron sat under the rim. Now, Boston did it a little bit. They set 2 back, which means they went under LeBron, their man and the defender, and played D. But I thought it was important to realize how LeBron James sat under the rim.
Yeah.
So with that, now I think that's taking a little too far where a team where you have to make an adjustment as an NBA player and say, hey, enough's enough. I got to get a jump shot. And whether it's switching to the right hand or hiring me a shooting coach, but I have to make adjustment. Now, mind you, did he do that last offseason? I don't know. Yeah. But if he comes back next year with the same exact game, then I'm saying, okay, enough's enough of letting him do what he wants to do. It's about time the coaching staff grab him and say, look, you must do this for the success of you and the success of this ball club.
His free throw has been better, about 70% in the month of March, so it seems that that's something that he's worked on. And to me, if he just gets to the line – I mean, in college he got to the line 9 times a game in 40 minutes. He only gets to the line about 4.5 times. It's just simply not enough.
Yeah, I believe – well, I'll take a big thing. That's what that is. He doesn't want to get to the line a lot of times because he's still not comfortable with his jumper. I think the more his foul shooting, the more he becomes comfortable with his foul shooting, the more he will look to get to the foul line. And I really believe that's what's going to happen. It takes to happen. He has to get more comfortable. He has to get more comfortable with that.
Marc Jackson at Jacko2554 on Twitter. Check him out on NBC Philadelphia. I said on Friday of last week that they played poorly in Atlanta and Orlando and Dallas, and it just looked like they were just going through the motions these last 2 weeks when they were kind of in that 3 spot. I am resigned to the fact, Mark, that they're just going to have to flip this proverbial switch and the intensity just either rises or it doesn't. Is that where you feel where this team is right now? They're either going to bring it come playoffs or this team just isn't good enough.
I think so. I mean, are they good enough? I think with that's just the worst case scenario. With Joel Embiid out, they still have enough to get past the Nets. But we have to look at their track record, what they've done this year when Joel hasn't played and is not a winning percentage. So with that being said, I have to take that amount of data into the playoffs with my head scratched like, oh, man, we might be in trouble. But do they have enough talent? Yes, they do, without Joel Embiid even suiting up. But do they need him? Yes. If they want to get past the next round past the Nets, they need Joel. But that being said, I look at it from the other end. You look at the Nets.
Yeah.
You take disrespect, people saying, oh, we're getting swept, or we can't beat them. And then they say, oh, we don't need Joel. You think, hey, I'm a former player. You take those things personally, and you use all the fuel you can. If an organization feels as though that they can beat you without the best player on a team, I think that has to ignite you, and that makes you play a little bit better. So without Joel Embiid, if I'm the 76ers, I'm a little frightened of the Nets right now.
Yeah, it's been a tough matchup for them. Now, they did play them about 2 weeks ago and beat them pretty handily. That was one of the 10 games that they played with a full deck. They were 8-2 in those 10 games. Brett Brown said, would we like to have them more? Sure. So I guess the question is it fair to evaluate Brett Brown at all with this roster so in flux, regardless of what happens in these playoffs? Or is there a certain level that you need to see the Sixers get to before you might say, you know what, they might need to shake some things up with this organization?
No, I believe this year is Coach Brett Brown's calling card. I think they will use what happens in the playoffs. So, yes, you can say, okay, with the regular season, this guy was out, this guy was out. Worst case scenario, Joel Embiid doesn't play the entire playoffs. Now, I hate to say that out loud, but let's say worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. No matter how the Sixers do in the playoffs, Coach Brett Brown will be judged on how he does in the playoffs with the roster he has, even without Joel Embiid. He don't want to say, oh, well, you have Joel, that's okay. No. I think Sixers past that stage. I think they have made some acquisitions to win now and to go far and to challenge the Warriors for the NBA basketball championship. If they don't go to the championship or go pretty far, even with or without Joel Embiid, Brett Brown will be judged on that.
Wow. See, and I'm not saying that you're wrong or irrational at all. It's just, okay, Marc Jackson, you're the coach of this team. You've had this roster for 10 games. And I say, I'm judging you on those 10 games only. Well, what about the other 72? You know, I just find it – look, I'm not saying it's fair or unfair. I just think it's hard to coach a team where you've only had the guys for 10 total games, and then what team has gone into the playoffs with such roster uncertainty and made a deep run? I can't really think of too many.
And I'm forward to 100%. Is it fair? No.
Okay.
But the moves that Elton Brand has made this offseason – I mean, this season is to get far.
Yeah.
So whether you had them 10 games or 50 games, with that amount of talent, you should be able to win and go far. Now, with 10 games in the belt, I'm big on chemistry. I'm huge on chemistry. 10 games is not enough to get chemistry. But you've had Jimmy Butler, you have Ben Simmons, you have JJ, you've had Joel Embiid. So now we're saying because we added Tobias. Okay, now that we added Tobias, what's the next step? So even without that, he's going to be judged on the success of the playoffs. And is it fair? I don't think it's fair because I think he should have that from the beginning of the season, but he hasn't. So they're going to judge him on what he did so far in what he's doing in the playoffs. He will be judged on his playoff performance.
Marc Jackson's with us. I'll leave you with this. They played 2 games, the last 2, Zaire Smith, Greg Monroe, Jonathan Simmons. All guys who – Monroe's been here for 10 minutes. Zaire's played 5 games. Simmons was not in the rotation. When Brett Brown drove home from that Bulls game in the season finale, did he have a lot of questions rattling through his head on what to do with these guys who he barely knows anything about?
Yes, you have to, because I really believe that he's in a situation where who's the first off the bench? Who's the first off the bench? Do I go with Simmons? Do I go with Zaire Smith? And I'm not going to lie. If watching the last couple of games of Zaire, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the way he plays. I think he has a basketball mind, a high IQ, and I think I have to give Coach Brett Brown 100% kudos to what he said about him in an interview a month ago. He said he has elite defensive footwork, and I agree with that 100%. He's good enough to throw in the playoffs and get some stops at some crucial times. And he's shooting the ball so much better that I wouldn't be upset if he went with him over Jonathan Simmons or if you play him on the court with 3 of your superstars out there. Because, I mean, I'm a fan of Jonathan Simmons, and I thought he should get a better shake, but he hasn't. With James Ennis out, I think Coach Brett Brown likes Zaire Smith, and I think Zaire Smith is part of the future here. So I think, with that being said, I think if he had to go which one he will play, I think he will play Zaire Smith over Jonathan Simmons in the playoffs, even though he is a rookie, and not just a rookie that's had a season plagued with injuries.
Marc Jackson, I had lunch with my father today. He said, you're my favorite Sixers guest, so congratulations.
Tell your dad I said thank you very much.
We will see you soon, pal. It's good to catch up.
Sir.
Playoffs are here. We'll have to talk to you again next week. Sixers in? How many?
Is Joel playing or not playing? And it makes a difference.
Ooh, he's in. I think he's going to gut it out. Don't you?
If Joel is in, I said sweep, but I'm going to be nice. And I'm going to say the Sixers in 5.
Marc Jackson, everybody. Temple's finest. He's here on the Sports Bash. Thank you, pal.
You're welcome, guys. Have a good one.
Marc Jackson, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.